There were 47 seconds between the moment my phone buzzed and the moment my life cracked open like glass. 47 seconds. The message popped up while I was sitting on the edge of our bed at 3:12 in the morning, staring at a suitcase I hadn't even packed yet. My fiancée was in the shower, humming like she always did when she thought nobody could hear her, and my phone lit up with a voice memo labeled for Lila. That's her sister. I didn't think. I just tapped play. Her voice filled the room, but it wasn't the voice she used with me. It was low, mocking, giddy, like a kid confessing a prank. She didn't know she'd sent it to me. She didn't know I was listening. I remember the first words exactly. God, Lila, I don't even know how to fake it anymore. He's asleep next to me right now like a puppy, and I'm just counting down days until it's over. Kyle thinks I should milk him for the honeymoon first, but I don't even want to touch him. I swear he'd still marry me if he knew. I dropped the phone. It hit the carpet with a soft thud. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't pick it up again. In the bathroom, the water kept running. She was singing along to some pop song, completely unaware that I'd just heard everything she never wanted me to know. The craziest part? I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. I just sat there, frozen, staring at that half-zipped suitcase, thinking about every single "I love you" I believed, and how much of it was a script. That night, I made a decision, and by sunrise, she woke up to an empty apartment. I didn't sleep, not even for a second. I sat there in the half-light of our bedroom, heart racing like I'd swallowed a war drum, staring at the voice memo that still hovered on my screen. 47 seconds. 47 seconds that had burned a hole through the center of everything I thought was real. I didn't even cry. I just went numb. The voice memo was still open, like it wanted me to play it again, as if hearing it a second time would change something. As if I'd misheard the part where she said she couldn't stand to touch me, or the part about Kyle, or the part where she laughed. God, the laugh was the worst. It wasn't cruel. It was casual, familiar. Like this was a running joke between her and her sister, and I was the punchline in a suit. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed while the sound of the shower behind the door filled the silence. She was still singing. I think it was that song by Tate McRae. Something ironic. I kept thinking, why isn't she choking on the water? Why isn't she drowning? I grabbed my backpack. Not a suitcase. Not the one we were supposed to take to Mexico for our pre-honeymoon. I grabbed the old canvas bag I used for groceries and tossed in what I could reach without making noise. Laptop. Chargers. Jeans. The hoodie she always said made me look like a divorced science teacher. I left the watch she gave me on the dresser. I couldn't stand the idea of her seeing me wear it in any future memory. My wallet was on the kitchen counter, right next to the note she left earlier that night. Don't forget to call the florist about lilac options. Bouquet ring. I nearly laughed. She was so good at playing the part. The perfect fiancée. She remembered details, scheduled tastings, took endless selfies with captions like, "Can't wait to marry this dork face blowing a kiss." I used to think I was lucky to have someone who loved me that loudly. Turns out, she was just loud. I checked the time. 3:18 a.m. Still in the shower. Still singing. Still pretending. I took one last look around. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping for some sign that she did love me once. A photo. A note. A clue that I hadn't been a total joke the whole time. But the apartment just looked like what it was, her space that I had been allowed to exist in. Before I stepped out, I went back to the voice memo. I hit save to files. Then I stared at the forward option for a long moment. I thought about sending it to her mom, her sister, Kyle, wherever the hell he fit in this. But I didn't. I wasn't ready to go to war. I just wanted to disappear before she had a chance to twist the knife deeper. As I closed the door behind me, I swear I heard the water turn off. And for a second, I wondered if she'd walk out into the empty room, see the note I never left, and feel even a flicker of panic. But I doubted it. Bryn always said I was safe. What she didn't know was that even the safest man has a limit. And I had just crossed mine. I didn't go to a friend's couch. I didn't check into a hotel. I didn't even know where I was heading when I turned the key in my old pickup and pulled away from the apartment building at 4 in the morning. The streets were empty, and the only light was the flicker of a neon diner sign and the glow of my dashboard clock ticking past 4:07. My whole life had just been rewritten in less than an hour, and the ridiculous part was how ordinary the world looked while it happened. A drunk couple stumbled out of a bar on 7th Street. A man walked his dog. Nobody knew that the man in the rust-colored pickup passing them had just discovered his fiancée was planning to gut him emotionally like a fish. As the road opened up, my mind started working in loops. Every memory of Bryn flickered through me like a slideshow. Her laugh when she first tried on the ring, the way she reached for my hand under the table at Christmas, the time she told me she couldn't believe she'd found a guy like me. I started replaying the voice memo over and over in my head. I could still hear the exact intonation she used when she said Kyle's name. A little softness, a little thrill, a way she had never said mine. It was as if the entire relationship I'd been living in was a set, and only now was I seeing the scaffolding and the wires. Somewhere past the city limits I pulled over. My hands were shaking. I opened the memo again. I told myself not to, but I had to know if I'd hallucinated it. I pressed play. It was worse the second time. She wasn't just complaining about me. She was strategizing, laughing with her sister about timing it so he doesn't suspect a thing, and about how Kyle says he can't wait until it's official and I'm free. Free from me. They'd made a timeline. I wasn't a fiancé. I was an obstacle. A wallet with a ring attached. The nausea that hit me then was so intense I had to throw the truck door open and lean out, gasping cold air. The highway was completely silent except for the occasional car roaring past, oblivious. When the wave passed, I sat back and stared at the steering wheel. All the self-pity I'd carried for years, the jokes about being this safe guy, suddenly felt like a prophecy I'd written for myself. I was the safe guy, the placeholder, the man she'd practice on until the real show began. I started the engine again, but this time I wasn't just running. A kind of strange clarity settled over me. She thought I would stay, even if I knew. She thought I was too soft, too timid, too desperate to leave. And in a way, she had been right about me for most of our time together. But now, driving into the black strip of interstate with everything I owned in a canvas bag, I felt something I hadn't in years, the edge of my own anger. I didn't know what I would do next. I didn't know where I'd sleep. But as the sun began to leak into the horizon behind me, one thing was certain. Bryn was going to find out that the man she'd mocked as safe had finally learned how to disappear. I spent the next day driving without purpose. I avoided the interstate, stuck to back roads, and let the scenery bleed past me like static. There was something oddly comforting about cornfields and rusted-out barns. No voices, no questions. Just me and the low hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional pit stop for gas station coffee I didn't drink. I hadn't eaten since the night before, but I couldn't stomach the idea of food. I didn't want nourishment. I wanted silence, distance, and time. I kept checking my phone, not because I wanted to talk to her, but because I expected her to notice. Some part of me still believed she would panic. That maybe when she saw the empty bed or the missing bag, she'd call in tears, tell me it was a mistake, a joke, something taken out of context. But there was nothing. No texts. No missed calls. Just that little memo in my files, sitting there like a live wire. Around dusk, I pulled into a cheap roadside motel outside a town so small it didn't even have a proper name. Just 2 gas stations, a liquor store, and a half-dead diner. I checked in under my middle name, not because I needed to hide, but because I wanted to feel anonymous. Like Milton Bishop, the man who thought love could be earned by loyalty, had quietly died somewhere between city limits. The room was what you'd expect. Brown carpet, buzzing fridge, floral bedspread that hadn't been fashionable since 1983. I didn't care. I collapsed onto the mattress, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning too slowly to do any good. That's when my thoughts stopped racing and started slicing. I kept thinking about the things she'd said that I'd brushed off. The way she used to get defensive when I asked who she was texting. How she'd always call me babe, but never love. The one time I found her crying in the kitchen and she said, "I don't want to hurt you," and I stupidly kissed her forehead and told her I'd never let her. I thought I was being comforting. Now I realized she was probably rehearsing how to end things, and I'd completely missed it. And Kyle. I didn't know much about him beyond the name. Some guy from her gym, I think. She'd mentioned him once, maybe twice. I couldn't even picture his face. Just a name that had slipped past my radar because I trusted her. Because I believed, like a fool, that you don't go looking for reasons to doubt the person you love. But now I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know how long it had been going on, what she'd told him about me, if he laughed at me too. I wanted to see his face, not to hit him or fight him. I wasn't that kind of guy. but just to understand what kind of person could sit on the other end of that voice memo and feel nothing. What kind of man would scheme with someone else's fiancée like it was a harmless joke? I reached for my phone again. Still nothing from Bryn. It was past 9 p.m. now. She had to know I was gone. She had to notice. But no messages. No calls. Not even a passive-aggressive, "Where are you?" That's when I realized something colder than anything I'd felt in the last 24 hours. She wasn't worried. Because she didn't expect me to go anywhere. In her mind, I was safe. Predictable. Forgiving to a fault. The kind of man who hears a betrayal and still shows up with flowers the next morning. Convinced that love means swallowing your pride until it chokes you. And maybe that's who I had been. But I wasn't anymore. I opened a blank note on my phone and typed just 2 words. Make her see. Not revenge. Not violence. Just a plan. Something honest. Something loud. If she wanted to mock me in private, I was going to make sure she got to hear what that really sounded like in the open. The fan above me creaked slowly as I stared at those 2 words. For the first time in days, I felt awake. The motel room smelled like bleach and sadness, but I barely noticed anymore. I'd spent the last 2 hours scrolling through Bryn's social media, something I rarely ever did when we were together. I used to think snooping was a sign of mistrust, and I prided myself on being better than that. But now, in the pale glow of a motel lamp with a lukewarm cup of vending machine coffee at my side, I wasn't interested in principles. I wanted facts. I wanted names. I wanted Kyle. It didn't take long. Her Instagram was full of our fake life. Brunches, engagement shoots, gym selfies where I was cropped out of the background like clutter. And then I found him. A handful of likes from someone named at KPowerFit. Harmless looking at first. Shirtless post-run selfie, captioned, "You get what you train for. Never what you wish for." One of those guys. I clicked through. He had the kind of profile that told you everything and nothing at once. Inspirational quotes, shirtless gym progress, smoothie bowls, the occasional dog photo to round out the algorithm. But buried among them, I saw it, her necklace. A gold crescent moon charm that I had given Bryn for our 2nd anniversary. In a mirror selfie of him in a car, there it was, hanging from the rearview mirror like a forgotten trophy. No caption, no tags, just his face, smiling like he'd won something he didn't even earn. My stomach twisted. I stared at that photo for a long time. Not because I was shocked, but because I finally had confirmation. It wasn't just flirtation or fantasy. This had been going on long enough for her to leave pieces of me behind in his world. Things I had paid for. Things I had wrapped in tissue paper and surprised her with because she once told me the moon made her feel less alone. I felt something rupture inside me. And not in the way that makes you want to scream or punch a wall. No, it was quieter than that. It was like watching a foundation you spent years building shift just slightly, knowing the whole thing would collapse with one more breath. I wasn't angry because she cheated. I was angry because she had rewritten our story while I was still living in it. So I wrote him a message. Nothing aggressive. Just a test. A soft knock on the door. "Hey man, I think we might know each other. Mind if we talk?" I didn't expect a response. Not right away, but I wanted him to feel a ripple. I wanted something in his stomach to shift the way mine had when I heard that voice memo. I wanted to become real to him. Not a joke. Not a soft target. A person. While I waited, I started packing my mind with pieces of the puzzle. Memories that didn't make sense before, but now pulsed with clarity. The canceled weekends. The way she always put her phone face down. The girls' trips that didn't include a single selfie of a girl. I'd been sleepwalking through my own relationship, always giving her the benefit of the doubt, always assuming she'd come back to me eventually. But she'd never really been with me. Not emotionally. Not for a long time. And I couldn't help but think, what if that memo hadn't been sent by accident? What if deep down, she wanted me to hear it? To finally do what she didn't have the nerve to do herself? Maybe I'd just been her moral off-ramp. Let me be the one to walk so she wouldn't have to be the villain. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of silence. I wasn't going to disappear quietly like some sad chapter in a story she was already rewriting. A ping brought me back to the screen. Kyle had responded. Who is this? I stared at the message, then cracked the stiffest smile I'd managed since leaving the apartment. That was all I needed. Just one crack in his confidence. I typed slowly, deliberately. I'm the man whose fiancée wears that necklace you hung in your car. Let's start there. I hit send and leaned back. It had begun. I didn't expect him to call. Guys like Kyle don't call. They ghost, deflect, laugh behind screens. But less than 5 minutes after I hit send, my phone lit up. Unknown number. I knew it was him before I answered. I didn't say anything at first. There was a pause on the other end, then a voice, smooth, laid back, like someone who thinks they're still holding the upper hand even when the floor's already crumbling. Is this Bryn's fiancé? His voice made my skin crawl, not because of how he sounded, but because of how calm he was. Like I was just a footnote in someone else's wild story. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to scream. But instead, I leaned forward, gripped the motel nightstand, and said quietly, ex-fiancé. He was silent for a beat. Then, so, I guess you heard the message. There it was. No denial. No pretending. Just that casual, smirking acknowledgement of the wound he'd helped create. I didn't know she sent it to you, he added. She freaked out when she realized. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Not because she felt guilty, but because the performance was over before she could deliver the final act. I could hear him breathing on the other end, like he was waiting for me to ask a question, to beg for details. But I didn't want to give him that. Instead, I said, how long? Another pause. Few months, he said. Maybe more, if you count the texting. It started as flirting, then it got serious. You weren't supposed to find out like this. I laughed then. Not because it was funny. It was the kind of laugh that spills out when your brain short circuits. I rubbed my temples and said, was I ever supposed to find out? He didn't answer. I could almost see him on the other side, some sleek apartment, probably shirtless, pacing with a beer in his hand, thinking I'd call and threaten him like a cliché. But I didn't. I wasn't here for threats. I was here for truth. The kind that doesn't need to be yelled. You thought I'd just marry her, I said, more to myself than to him, while you watched from the sidelines. Cheered her on. Maybe kept sneaking around on the side. I didn't plan anything, Kyle said. I'm not a homewrecker, man. It just happened. I grit my teeth. That phrase again. The favorite defense of cowards. It just happened. She said you told her to wait until after the wedding. I said, my voice tightening. I didn't tell her that, he replied quickly. I said if she wasn't sure, maybe she should. Use me. I cut him off. Lie a little longer? Get the honeymoon and the registry gifts before dropping the mask? He was quiet now. It wasn't about him anymore. I realized that halfway through the call. Kyle was a symptom. Bryn was the disease. But hearing him stumble, hearing the cracks in his confidence, it was confirmation that neither of them had expected me to be anything more than soft collateral. A man who would lick his wounds in silence. But I wasn't going to do that. You'll probably get her now, I said calmly. You win. Hope she's as loyal to you as she was to me. I didn't want to hurt you, man, he muttered. She said you were. I don't know. Comfortable. Safe. Safe. That word again. That goddamn word. Like being a decent human being was something to be mocked. Like not cheating made me naive. Like loyalty was a weakness. I ended the call without another word. For a while I just sat there, my phone buzzing once more. A follow-up text from Kyle. Sorry again. Didn't mean for this. I didn't reply. I couldn't. There was nothing left to say to him. But I wasn't done yet. I opened my laptop and stared at the blank email screen for a long moment. Then I started typing. Not to Bryn. Not to Kyle. But to someone else entirely. Someone she never thought I'd contact. Her mother. If they wanted silence, I'd give them a storm instead. The email wasn't long. I didn't need it to be. I just wrote, Hi Diane. I'm writing you directly because I think it's time you knew. There won't be a wedding. Ask your daughter why. And when you do, tell her to check her messages. Milton. I stared at those lines for 5 straight minutes before hitting send. My finger hovered over the trackpad like it was the trigger to a weapon. And in a way it was. Not a bomb. Not some dramatic explosion. Just a carefully placed match dropped into a very dry house of cards. I didn't want revenge. I wanted exposure. I wanted truth. I wanted the curtain pulled back. Not for me, but for everyone she'd been performing for. The mother who'd bragged about our storybook love. The friends who fawned over her ring, her Pinterest boards, the filtered versions of us she posted online. The sister who laughed in the background of that voice memo while I was being skinned alive in real time. I didn't expect a reply right away, but less than 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It wasn't Diane. It was Bryn. 5 missed calls. 2 voicemails. Then a text. What the hell did you say to my mom? No, where are you? No, please talk to me. Just immediate damage control. That told me everything. Another text followed before I could even think about responding. Milton, this is insane. Can you please call me? Please. Don't make this worse than it already is. Make this worse? I nearly laughed. She was scrambling, but not for me, for her image. She knew that once Diane asked questions, the answers wouldn't just hurt me. They'd stain her. Her clean record. Her perfect fiancé persona. Her curated identity built on the back of my devotion. But I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed her to stew in silence the way I had for days. I needed her to feel that creeping dread of not being able to control the narrative. Instead, I did something else. I logged into our shared wedding website. You know the ones. Cute photo galleries. RSVP links. Gift registries. We'd built ours together one night over Thai takeout and wine. She chose the fonts. I wrote the Our Story section. I deleted it all. Then I replaced the homepage photo, the one of us laughing in the park, with a single text box. The wedding is off. Ask the bride why. No names. No details. Just enough. I hit publish and closed the laptop. I imagined the ripple. Guests checking dates. Family wondering what happened. Her trying to spin a new story fast enough to keep everyone from tracing it back to the truth. I wasn't out to ruin her life. Just to remind her that mine wasn't some disposable placeholder she could use until a better option came along. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about visibility. She had made me invisible for so long. In her eyes, in her messages, even in her future, that I had started to believe it. But now, I was no longer the background character. Now, I was the mirror she couldn't avoid. My phone buzzed again. This time, the message was longer. You're being cruel, Milton. You don't understand what was happening. It's more complicated than you think. I wanted to tell you. I was going to. But you ghosted me like a coward and now you're turning everyone against me. I made a mistake, but I don't deserve to be humiliated like this. I read the message twice. Then 3 times. And for the first time since that voice memo, I felt nothing. No grief. No heartbreak. No rage. Just silence. Because she was wrong about one thing. I didn't disappear like a coward. I just finally stopped pretending. I met her in person 3 days later. Not because I wanted to see her. Not because I needed closure. But because I deserved to look her in the eye one last time. Not as the man she walked over, but as the man who survived her. She asked to meet at a cafe. Neutral ground, she said. I agreed. I didn't tell her I'd already decided this would be the last time we'd speak. She was already sitting when I arrived, sunglasses on, half-finished latte beside her, the mask still barely holding together. The moment she saw me, I watched her steel herself like a person who's about to face an audience they can't charm anymore. I sat down and said nothing. She launched right into it. The apology. The explanations. The I was scared. The you didn't really see me. The it was never meant to go that far. I just listened. For 10 minutes straight, she talked like a woman trying to patch a sinking ship with her bare hands. I watched her closely. Not cruelly. Not with anger. Just with finality. When she was done, I nodded once and said the only thing I'd come to say. You didn't love me. You loved how I loved you. She flinched like it hit her in the gut. And for a second, I almost regretted saying it. But it was the truth. And the truth had taken too long to matter in this relationship. It deserved to be spoken, even if it was too late to save anything. She tried to say something else, something about therapy, maybe staying friends. I stood before she could finish. I told her I wished her well. And I meant it. I really did. Then I walked out into the afternoon sun. And it felt like stepping out of a cave I didn't know I'd been trapped in. It's been 4 months since that day. I moved. Not far, but far enough that nothing reminds me of her. I closed down the wedding site for good. I changed my number. I cut ties with her friends, even the ones who had no idea. I didn't post cryptic quotes or bitter memes. I just rebuilt, slowly, quietly, without needing anyone to clap for me. I took up running, joined a book club of all things, started seeing a therapist, which was the first time I said out loud. I let someone treat me like I was optional. That was a hard sentence, but it changed everything. I'm not the same man I was when I drove away from that apartment at 3:12 in the morning. I'm not waiting to be chosen anymore. And I haven't listened to that voice memo since the day I left. I don't need to, because I remember how it felt and how I never want to feel again. So if you're reading this and you're where I was, doubting your gut, apologizing for your kindness, shrinking so someone else can feel tall, let this be your permission slip. You can leave. You can survive. And eventually, you'll stop surviving and start living again. I did. And this time, I'm not letting anyone write my story for me.